Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome to another one of our B2B webinars here with GTS. I am very happy to let you know that today we have the illustrious James Hudson. James is the Senior Director of Tabletop Games for Skybound. Today we're going to talk about a couple of different things from Skybound, and it's going to be really cool. We're going to talk at a whole about Skybound and the company and kind of what they do and who they are from a games division perspective. We're also going to talk about Superfight, which is my two boys' favorite game on the planet right now because they play it seems like, every night. It's something that my oldest son carries around with him everywhere he goes, actually. And anyone who is here live, if you're attending live, you're actually going to be eligible for a free demo copy of Superfight. If you have never seen Superfight before, or if you've never demoed it in your store, it is an absolutely wonderful game to have demoed in your store because it is super quick and easy to teach, and it's super easy to learn. And within about 30 seconds, you're laughing at that game. So it's a great, great demo game to have on your tables. We're also going to talk about two upcoming games from Skybound. The first one is Grimm Masquerade, which you may remember James was involved with the Grimm Forest. So this is kind of a spiritual successor, you could call it in a way. And we're also going to talk about a new Walking Dead game called Something to Fear, which is a smaller card game. And there are two special promotions wrapped around that. So I won't steal James's thunder for that, but they are really cool stuff. We're going to be offering those to you as pre-orders through GTS, which is awesome. As a reminder for everyone who's here, there's nothing you need to do at the end of this to get your free demo copy of Superfight. We'll get all the information of every store that registered for the webinar and attended live over to the GTS sales reps, so they'll be able to contact you and take care of all that. If this is your first time here, let you know that if you hover over the window, there's a little chat bubble at the bottom. You can open that chat bubble, and then you can either send a message to all the panelists, which are myself and James, or you can do a drop down to all panelists and attendees, and that will go to everyone. So depending on if you want to ask a private or public question, you can do that and ask whatever you'd like. As I tell everybody, everything is on the table. So any questions you have, feel free to hop in, let us know as we go along. But with that, I will take my face that was made for radio, I will let it be quiet, and I will kick it over to my good friend, James.
Hey, y'all. So I make board games at Skybound. That's what we do here. But board games is only one little piece of the Skybound puzzle. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to join here. I left Druid City and came to this was because of all the great possibilities that Robert Kirkman and David Alpert had kind of built up into the Skybound pie. They do film, obviously comics, video games, app games, VR. We've just got a lot of divisions that do a whole lot of different things. And what that was going to allow us to do is take a game like the Grimm Forest, or like a game that's coming up like Tidal Blades that has legs, and be able to spin it off into these other divisions like film and TV and comics and that sort of thing, to give a game a chance to go more mainstream. Because one of the main things that I hope to do is help bring more people into the hobby, right? And so I felt like Skybound was going to be, they were very open to helping partner in that, to say board games are something that we should share with the world, and we need to bring that to the mass market more. And I feel like the only way to really do that is to have products that started with board games that end up in these other mass areas. So if we can get a Tidal Blades film or a Grimm Forest film, then people will go check out the board game, which brings them into the fold. So that's pretty much the overall here. Superfight is one of those games that I think it's been around about 4 years now. Jack Dyer or Darren Ross, whichever name you knew him by, did this back on Kickstarter. I guess it was in 2015 or so. And, you know, it did $40,000 or $50,000. It was a pretty normal thing back then, but then it just exploded when it hit retail. I think to date, we've sold 4.5 million units between all the expansions, and there are 29 expansions to the game. So it has a lot of legs, and every con we go to, we'll still have fans come up and they get the menu. We have this big menu board, and they go, okay, these are the 6 that I don't have for expansions. Give me all 6. So it's obviously a very popular game. And as Scott was saying, in 30 seconds, you've explained the game and you're up and playing. It could be a whole table full of people, but 2 people are battling it out. And they draw some cards, and they have different attributes in their hand. So it might be like Abraham Lincoln, that's your base card. And then you pick another attribute like has chainsaws for arms. And then you get another random card on top of that, and it'll say like, and shoots lasers out of his eyes. Well, the other person may have, Batman who can fly and is invulnerable. And then they will argue amongst each other who would win that most ridiculous fight. And then the table judges and votes on who actually wins. And then it just goes around, everybody gets turned doing that. So it's a bunch of made up, ridiculous arguments amongst nerdy folks like us who like to argue these ridiculous things. And it's whoever has the best gift of gab usually. But anybody can play, and it can be as innocent or as adult as you like. And there's expansions that fit that whole spectrum. Scott, what do you want me to talk about next? The Grimm Masquerade?
You can hop to either one if you want to talk about the Grimm Masquerade, or if you want to talk about Walking Dead, whichever you think is more pertinent. But definitely let's talk about the promos for sure, because that's going to be a valuable thing to the retailers.
Sure. So the Grimm Masquerade, like Scott said earlier, is the spiritual successor to the Grimm Forest. So the Grimm Forest, if you're unfamiliar, it was a game that we launched on Kickstarter in 2017. And we've sold out of our first print run through retail. And we've got a second print run that just hit our warehouse. So we just got that restocked. So if you're waiting to get more there, that's available now. But, it's some of the things like Tom Vassell called it one of the best gateway games he's ever seen, things like that. So we're really proud of it. And we felt like it was a cornerstone world. The universe was, it had a nice slight edge in the art that it was more, it made an adult want to check it out, and it wasn't so kiddie. And that was one of the art directions that we really drove that world into. And so we are working on an expansion for that, which will come probably next year in 2020, and also a narrative game. But for now, I'm looking over at it. The Grimm Masquerade, we wanted to make a social deduction game that wasn't as social. We wanted to really approach that area differently. And so the Grimm Masquerade is a new standalone game, but in the same universe. And what it does is it's more based off strategic deduction of the cards. So you get a secret character, and you're trying to determine who everyone else is, but then also keep your identity secret, but you don't actually have to say anything. You're just playing cards on each other, because each character has, they have 2 artifacts. One is a good one that they want. If they get 3 of those, they win. They have a Bane artifact. If they get 2 of those, they're out. So anytime a player everyone's tableaus are open. So you're just playing cards. You're looking around the table and you're playing cards on each other going, okay, I'm going to give you 2 treats. 2 treats. Are you the big bad wolf? If you are, you're out. And then everyone has to obviously be truthful. And it just makes a lot of meta. Jeremy from Man vs. Meeple really loves the game. He did a post this week because he got a preview copy. He's raving about it. So yeah, really excited about it in general. It's $25 MSRP. It comes 6 units to a case. And we do have a promo that wrapped around it for pre-orders. And I believe the pre-orders, Scott, at the end, if I say this wrong, you can correct it. I believe it's June 11th is our last day.
That is correct. Yeah, we have to have orders into you guys by the 14th. So June 11th for distribution for us to get those over to you.
Sweet. The promo is, for every unit that you order, you're going to get a free Red Riding Hood collectible lapel pin. It's packaged. It's got a little hook hanger, so you can do whatever you want with those. You want to give them away to your folks in the store who pre-order, great. You want to sell them, great. We don't care. I really wanted, one of the things that I want to do with all of our promotions is I don't like the hooks that a lot of promotions have in them. Order a case and you get 1, or minimum of 12, or things like that. If you want to pre-order 1 game, you get 1 pin. You want to pre-order 50 games, you get 50 pins. I didn't want to put any sort of limits on that. Just let you guys do what's best for your stores and your business and go to work.
And I got to admit, that's one of the bigger investments that we've seen on the distribution side, because those pins are not cheap by any means whatsoever. And they're really, really quality pins. And if anyone's not familiar, pin trading, while it's not unique just to board games, pin trading as a whole is very huge inside the geek culture. If you've ever been to a PAX, you know that there's a huge, gigantic trading kind of consortium or community there. And those things can usually be, somewhere like $3 to $6 a pin, depending on, and I'm talking cost, not MSRP. Right. So to take a $25 game and put that quality of an item attached to it for a pre-order is really one of the bigger investments that we've seen from a distribution side. So that's one of the reasons we wanted to have James come on and talk to everybody about it, is that, we've been talking about brands. We've been talking about brands that kind of put their money where their mouth is. And this is definitely that type of situation. So it's really cool. So.
Yeah. And the only place that these pins from you guys are going to be available is from us at conventions or on our website. They're not going into general retail. So it does make it more difficult and more valuable to have those to be able to give out. So yeah, and they do this promotion. Pins do cut into our margins quite a bit because, like you said, they're expensive. However, we've also learned that if you don't launch a game with some success right out of the gate, then it's DOA. And so for us, this is an investment we're willing to make sure our games are noticed and in stores and on shelves, and we help support you and help you sell games and move units. So for us, it feels like a win-win. It's a frontline investment. I hope that you guys make us order 10,000 of those pins. That'd be super. But it does come with cost. So we appreciate you appreciating.
Sure. There was a quick question from David Toe. Is there a demo program available? There is. If you contact your GTS sales rep, Skybound is part of our demo program as well. If anyone's unfamiliar with our demo program, it's fairly straightforward and simple. We allow retailers with a brick and mortar store to be able to buy a single copy of a game from GTS at 25% of MSRP. You can buy one copy of a game per storefront per year. Expansions are excluded, so only base games. But you can contact your sales rep and be able to help you get set up with that with either any of the three we're talking about today or any of the other Skybound games as well.
And the game's gorgeous. So as far as demos go, it demos very quickly. The game is gorgeous. And so it's by award-winning artist Mr. Cuddington. The Grimm Farce actually was up for a BGG Geek Award in art and production from last year. So we got squeaked out by Everdale because obviously Andrew Bosley killed it. That thing is gorgeous. But I would, I'm biased, but I think we should have won. But what do I know? But yes, we have demos, and the game, and it's just like Grimm Farce, kind of sells itself on the demo table because it looks so good. And at $25, it's a quick party game. But most people that played it and demo it at our conventions go, I don't typically like a lot of social deduction games. I'm kind of over that, but I like this because I don't have to say anything. And you can still bluff. You can bluff without saying anything, and that's a pretty unique thing. There's also no player elimination, so people also really enjoyed how that works in the mechanics. So yeah, it makes for a great demo game. Next up is Walking Dead, Something to Fear. So this game's, the whole crux of this was we've got this huge audience that follows us because of The Walking Dead, Robert Kirkman and the TV show and the comics. And again, going back to that previous conversation of how do we take mass market, mass media and bring them into our little world of board gaming, this little thing that we love. I wanted to start with a game that was easy to play, but then still had teeth for gamers. And this is our first attempt because this is not a licensed game. This is our game. The Walking Dead is ours. So, this is in-house. We've treated this with the love and care, not of a licensee, but like someone who's, this is our baby. Trust me, it took me 1.5 years to get Robert to approve the art for this game. So we used Justin Chan, who did the art for, you might be familiar, Century Spice Road Gollum Edition. And he has a very unique style. And it kind of gave, we call it American anime. He kind of gave it an anime-ish kind of look to the art. So one of the big selling points is the art has never been done for The Walking Dead in this manner. Like Robert is very, very particular about only letting Charlie mostly do the art for the world. He doesn't want like 50,000 different styles of Walking Dead out in the world. He wants, when people see Walking Dead, they recognize it. And, that's his prerogative. But we were able, like I said, 1.5 years to talk him into it. The game, like I said, it's co-opetition. I owe John Gilmore a penny for that. He coined that phrase with Dead of Winter. So everyone's working together, but you can screw over your teammates. You're trying to set collections, so you're trying to score the most points by the end of the game. There's 9 rounds. If you've played Raptor, it's very similar in that you draw up 3 cards. Everybody has the same 9 powers, but you're going to have 3 cards in your hand. You're going to pick which one you want to play face down. There's going to be a row of cards that you're going to get to choose from, and they have different things that are going on, and everyone flips them over. Each card has a power and an order status. And so you execute those things, and then the cards fall where they do. One of the cards will go through every round and do damage to the group. So they have different values. So at the end, you have to decide, we have to survive or everyone dies, right? So no one can win. I've seen that plenty of times where people get greedy. They only want the high value cards for their sets. They let the high damage cards go through and they all die and nobody wins. So it makes for a really fun, tense, at the end, rounds 7, 8, and 9, when everyone's trying to do the math and like, we're really close to dying here. And then somebody slips through a wound card on someone else and it ends up killing them, because people can die individually as well. So yeah, it's got a nice little trader mechanic that's not really like trader. You can just screw people over. It makes for some really fun interactions. That game's $20 MSRP. Also comes 6 to a case, and we do have a promo for it. It is the Shiva promo card. We had already planned this card well before we got into the idea of that we were going to start doing pins. Just so you know, we want to do the pin pretty much for every game, at least for the next 2 years. We want to really give this program legs and see what does, like 2 years from now, are there people like selling those pins on eBay and they have a big value, which will then build a big value for you when we launch a game with that pin, knowing that people are going to put a lot of value into those pins. And so, but we'd already planned this Shiva promo card well before we started this program. And it's just an awesome card that changes the gameplay just a little bit. It gets mixed into the encounter deck. When Shiva comes out, she murders some stuff and then can save somebody's wounds, because that's what Shiva does. Spoiler alert, in the comics and the show. And it's an awesome piece of art. So that one's going to be for this game. Like I said, we already had it planned, and it comes with just the same exact setup as the pin from Grimm Masquerade, 1 per unit, and 1 to 1,000, whatever you want.
Yeah, that's awesome. A lot of the feedback that we get from retailers is that with games that they may not have tried before, or companies that they may not have tried before, they're sometimes hesitant whenever a pre-order deal is like, you have to buy 6 or you have to buy 12, because they may only want to kind of dip their toe in the pool, so to speak, right? Only get maybe 3 or 4. So it's really great that, if you are a store that hasn't used Skybound before, it's a really good opportunity to jump in at a smaller level and still be able to get and take advantage of those promos. So what I'm hearing is that everyone should buy the promo pin, because in 2 years, the Red Riding Hood pin is going to be worth $1,000 on eBay, right? That's what I'm hearing. So,
that'd be great, right?
You never know, right? I mean,
we did have people like, we did the art from the Shiva promo was a penny arcade pin, and they were selling for $50. Yeah, I think they're still in the $35 to $40 range for those pins. So
there's some of them that are really, really big. I've seen a couple of board game companies, that have a brand to be able to tie a pin to, not just a random pin, but something tied to it. Do some really amazing things and almost create that kind of chase mentality around those pins. So I think that could be really good. Hearing you say that you're going to plan to do that for future releases too is even more comforting, right? Because it's something that we know is kind of more stable and something that can be counted on from Skybound.
Well, the bigger thing that we're trying to do, and the thing that I came in selling last year when I joined the team here, was marketing shouldn't just be for the launch of a game. You have to have a marketing plan pre-launch, launch, and then the whole tail of the life cycle of the game. Otherwise, we're just going to have something that sits on the shelf and dies and no one talks about it because of the glut of the new. And I'm also doing my best to stem back. Let's make more games every year. And so what I'm trying to do is 6 to 8 is kind of our window. I want to make 6 to 8 games a year, really concentrate on those, make sure they're supported through the whole life cycle. And so that's kind of our general plan. I hope to do that.
That's a radical idea. You mean less quantity, more quality, and longer life cycles. That's crazy talk.
Well, they kind of beget each other, because if you really actually try to plan out the marketing for 30 products in a single year, it's not possible unless you've got hundreds of people on staff. So if that's what you're saying you want to do, which is what we want to do, then you have to put a backstop on how many games that can come out. Otherwise, you can't actually execute that plan.
Yeah. One of the things that we've talked about a lot on these webinars with our retailers is around focusing on brands first and games second. And we're really, really trying to kind of, find those tie-ins as to the people that we bring onto this. And Skybound fits with that really, really well, because you're kind of a step kind of in parallel with the board game industry, but you're also kind of, in other things as well, between the comics and the Walking Dead and the entertainment stuff that you do as well. And I think that gives you a unique opportunity in how you market your games and how the public and the consumers receive all that information as well. Right. The average board game company does not have those advantages to them, right? It was interesting. When we do our webinars and we do pre-registration and send out information, very rarely do we get feedback ahead of the webinars. We usually get feedback after the webinars from retailers telling us, hey, that was really good. Thanks for having this person. I had a question about this, or things like that. This was the first one since we started in September of last year that we actually got feedback ahead of time. where people were emailing me on Thursday and Friday or sending me Facebook messages going, thank you for having him on. We've wanted to talk about this stuff. We've wanted to, understand more about it. So that tells me that your marketing is reaching people in a way that the traditional marketing is not.
And there might be a little bit of an elephant in the room when it came to Superfight, because I know there was a time where it was in distribution, people could get it, then Skybound pulled it out. This is before my time, and now we've added it back. And so they had a big problem with counterfeits. There was a ton of counterfeits out there. And then there was a map in place. And also Skybound sets their stuff up to be the only entity that can sell their products on Amazon. And so there was just constantly fighting that battle of keeping stuff off of Amazon, which we essentially have an employee dedicated to that. And we do have a 20% map on our overall product line as it is, because we want to protect the value of our products in the marketplace. But that was one of the things that confused people. Like, it was in distribution, it was out in distribution, now it's back in again. So our plan is to stay in distribution as long as we can control these levers, right? Like, it is a difficult and a full-time job to monitor Amazon, to watch counterfeits, and to make sure everybody's doing the things that they're supposed to do. But we care about our products, and we care about the value of them, and we want to make something when it's sitting on the shelf. You're not going to find it on Amazon at below what you can even buy it from your distribution partners. So that's, again, part of our plan, part of our goal.
And that's important, right? I'm a firm believer that if you have a good brand and you have a good plan, then the games will come into line behind that, right? We are hearing a lot more from publishers that are taking a stance very much like what you just talked about, around making less quantity of games, but making higher quality of games. You touched on a subject, though, that is actually very rarely touched on, and I think it's really good and just good to cement again with the retailers, is that you're not just marketing games up to the release of a product. You're marketing games after the release of a product. And it is amazing to me how many people in our industry just run to that quote unquote finish line of releasing the game, when really that's the starting line. Right? That's the finish line from a production perspective and from a development perspective, but it's from the beginning of the life cycle. That's the starting line for the game and where it's going to hit consumers and hit retailers and start being, played on tables. So it's really good to hear you guys are thinking about that. And I think that's something that can just add more value to the retailers for them to know, hey, this is a company I can trust and put some weight behind, which is really good. So
we've got two more big ones that'll be hitting this year. Sorcerer City, which, again, it's all speculation, but this is a Scott Caputo game who did Whistle Stop, who has the 100 Tory on Kickstarter right now. He's done Voluspa as an older game that he did with Stronghold, but he's like a tile laying master. Like, he's got this like juju that I just don't understand when it comes to tile laying. But Sorcerer City is a new type of game where it combines, it's like Dominion and Carcassonne in one game. It is a tile laying deck builder. I feel like we're going to instantly sell out of that game. I think, and not from a shorting it or anything like that. I just think there's going to be people are going to play it. Like, when I played the demo, like when I played his prototype, I've never asked anyone so fervently to sign a game. Like, it was so much fun as a crappy prototype that now that we've added really great art and all the bells and whistles, it's going to be a game. Once people play it, they're going to freak out, and it's just going to go. And it was really expensive to make. So we did make a shorter run of that game. It's in like the 10,000 for retail range for the first run. And that's just all it made sense until we see what it does. Because I can have all the speculation in the world until it gets into the world and we see what it does. That's what we do. And then next we've got Tidal Blades, which Tidal Blades is just liquid hot fire magma for us. Like, we're beating down the people are like berating us. We've had people coming into us asking for video games, anime, animated series, because we've struck a nerve with that.
That's not just a game; that's a world.
Yeah, it's going to be a corner. We're developing an RPG with a very large RPG making company. Like, there's a lot of stuff in the works for that one, but it's currently Sorcerer Cities should land in August, September, and then Tidal Blade should be October, November. So as soon as we get those solicits ready, we'll get those out to you guys, and we can get
so
things.
Dawn has an interesting question here. I saw that would be kind of interesting to get your feedback on. She says, I thought you weren't calling it social deduction. Did you go back to social deduction as a keyword for selling?
I was only just, if she noticed, I only said that as I was describing what it's not.
Okay.
So we have started to try to call it strategic deduction. Part of me goes, let's call it social deduction because that's what people know it as. And when they play it, they'll go, "Ooh, this is very different." But I think she's right that we need to just from the beginning coin it as what it is, which is it's really just a deduction game that has some social aspects sprinkled in.
Sure. That's awesome. I think in general, every tabletop game is social aspects of some type. So for sure.
David had a question. The price point for Sorcerer City is going to be $60 MSRP. There's 324 tiles in that box, and it has a game tray insert. The production level of that game is insane. So it's a little bit more expensive, but that was because when we got to really making the game, it is just an expensive game. So, yeah.
Awesome. Excellent. And just so everyone knows, I did put the part numbers for Superfight, the base game, Grimm Masquerade, and The Walking Dead, Something to Fear into chat as well. So if you didn't have those for any reason from your registration for the webinar, then you've got that there in chat. It does look like there's no additional questions coming in. So I guess, James, are there any final comments or any final questions you want to throw out at all? Or
I've shielded out all the stuff that I've got for this year, so I'm done.
Awesome. Well, really want to thank you for taking the time to join us and talking about Skybound overall. I know you're enjoying your new life there in Los Angeles and have all of your beautiful statues behind you to prove that you got some friends in the office there, which is good. So
That's right. That's right.
Retailers, really want to say thank you. I know it's right after the holiday and, it's been a long weekend and a lot of stuff going on in stores. Always appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us and just take a little bit of time out of your day to learn more about the products that we offer for you. Just as a reminder, again, if you were here live, your sales rep will get you a free demo copy of Superfight for your store, which is awesome. Feel free to tag us or tag Skybound in those as you take pictures of them in your stores. And again, the Red Riding Hood pin for the Grimm Masquerade and the Shiva card for Something to Fear, the Walking Dead card game. Those are going to be available for pre-orders up until the 11th of June, and you can do that with as few or as many units as you'd like. So, James, thank you very much for supporting the community. Thank you for all you do as a publisher. And until we see you next time, we hope everyone has a great week in your stores.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.